Let me just start by saying good morning again. It's really nice to see everybody. We've got Texas and New York and Ecuador on the line as well as Forest Falls and San Juan Capistrano and San Pedro and San Francisco. So kind of fun. Welcome everyone. A couple of weeks ago, I did a talk on content versus context, and the point I hope I made there, and it raised some questions, but the point I hope I made there, and Gabriel's still here, good, was that if you see Zen and our practice as something distinct and separate from your real life and try to fit it in, it becomes a juggling act and tension and questions of time and doesn't always work very well. So I made the case for rather holding your practice as the context for your life in which everything else happens. And then your real life, your life in the phenomenal world, the world of working and family and vacations and everything else, is an expression of your practice, an expression of your Buddha nature, an expression of being awakened. And then I went up to Yokoji for a small session of just residents and semi-residents, which I guess I qualify as, and was asked to, well, let me rephrase that, assigned to give a Dharma talk on Tuesday, just a couple days after that talk, there at Yokoji. And for that talk, I flipped that on its head and shared with the gang there that I had done this talk about context and said that is very true, but as is always true with Zen, both sides of the coin are true at the same time, and we have to become agile at holding both sides and being both sides at once. So the other side of that coin being content matters too. The content we create, the actions we take in our lives matter as well. So it's not just a matter of being this big awakened context and then doing whatever you want. The content of the life matters as well. So did that talk up there. And today I hope to tie some of these things together as well as do a better job of answering Gabriel's question at the end of the previous talk, which was, okay, Shiro, that's all fine and good, this context thing, but how? How do you actually do this? How? Let's get out of philosophy and principle and how do I do it? Fair question. And I think we did a decent job of answering it, but I'd like to try to go a little bit further. And at the end of that talk, Jeff Irwin, who's not with us, it looks like this morning, also said, I'd like to know more about your time in advertising, those decades in advertising, and how that worked with your Zen practice and how Zen won. And I think that's an interesting question, especially paired with Gabriel's question of how do you do this? It also relates to some conversations Sharma and I and some others of us have had. And I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about this because we're not monastics. We don't live in a monastery where all of our effort is within the context of the monastery. Almost everyone here has other things they're doing. work lives or family lives, whatever it is. And we're Zen Buddhists, Zen practitioners. So the short answer to how did Zen win is that it didn't. It didn't. Because winning would imply that taking on this practice means that it's going to kill everything else off. So that dualistic view or two-sided view of that question, and I say this with all respect, Jeff, because it's a fair question and it's been asked over and over, would imply that the second I became, a Zen Buddhist and started practicing and then took Jukai or the precepts, and then went on to become a priest and start teaching and all the various steps along the way, the implication would be, oh my God, I got to get out of this advertising thing because it is in conflict or in direct opposition to my practice and is wrong. Okay, so a couple of things there. One related to advertising. First of all, that there is a view that some people hold that advertising is a evil and manipulative practice that makes people do what they otherwise would not do. Get you to buy things on the promise of looking better or greater money or greater sex, that you would not otherwise do. That form of selling is pretty shallow and pretty short term. And I think it also sells people short on their own free will and their own ability to make decisions. And it was certainly not the kind of advertising I practiced, the kind of marketing I practiced. And I will admit to being somewhat spoiled because I worked with a lot of tech companies. I refused to do cigarettes. There were certain boundaries that I had already set up that were in place that made this easier. But the fact of the nature is that my Zen practice, and I think this is an opportunity for everyone, just made me more powerful and more empathetic and more clear in my life. And I happened to be doing advertising. Okay, that was my career at the time. What that allowed me to do, and I think this opportunity exists no matter what you're doing, is to more clearly see what was in front of me at any given point in time. To more honestly and authentically engage with the people that were in front of me, whether they were clients or employees or colleagues at any given point in time. To more clearly see the relationship between my work and my family and how it was impacting my family. To be awakened to my actions and my consequences. So that was like a first level of how my practice started interleaving with that particular career. When people came into my office, I could hear them rather than go, oh, here comes Art again, with a prejudice or prejudging what he was going to come in with to say. I could actually start hearing people. I could hear their truths, and you can hear people's lies because you just are more awake and aware and tuned in to what is real versus the delusion. Other things, it became easier for me to sleep through some of the stresses, and then things like my partner and I at the time, my work partner, Lori's been my partner, it's life partner through all of this. Things like I for years allowed myself to smoke on a set, like when we were shooting commercials or something. for some reason, like it was okay to smoke doing that, And then a little bit further along, it became okay to smoke when I, had a glass of wine or two. And so I actually never was really a smoker addicted in the physical sense, but it did become somewhat of an addiction situationally and socially. And so at that level, the practice kicks in too, because after a while, you got to look at yourself and go, okay, what's up here and what am I doing? My partner at the time, her husband was battling cancer, and one day we looked at each other and just said, this is stupid. This is really stupid. And I haven't smoked since. Not even while having a drink or two, occasionally, now and then. So there was that level. But then there's another level which is available to us, and I see in a lot of you this having taken root and affecting your lives, whether you're a therapist, whether you're working with people with addictions, whether you're in the film or entertainment industry. And that's where the practice and the precepts and this vowing to be awakened starts influencing how you work with people. And so for me in that career, that took on the form of working with CEOs and C-suite and the marketers and the companies to really start diving into a more authentic space of why are you doing what you're doing and why are you here on the planet and what function does this company serve and what would happen if you couldn't sell your main product and how does it relate to people's lives? Okay? And so on the technology side, that led to being able to do what I think is one of the greatest, Buddhist campaigns of all time for Cisco systems, which was Welcome to the Human Network, which was, they spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars putting a message out in the world that says, we're all connected. What are we going to do with it? So that was kind of nice to have that level of influence. And it was nice to learn how to reach across boundaries and work with John Chambers, who was the CEO at the time, and an avowed Republican and friend of George W. Bush, and to learn to work across those boundaries coming from my liberal political point of view. How do you do that? My ability to stay sequestered from things that I thought were unpalatable was challenged a little bit when I was asked to come out here to LA when I met some of you on the screen here and take over the LA operation, because the LA operation had for 50 years had Barbie as an account. Now, from my ultra PC liberal point of view, Barbie was not a good thing. Barbie had an unrealistic body and encouraged girls and women to try to attain an unhealthy body image. And yet I had to walk into that company and work with the highest levels of that company and start untangling that and go, okay, everyone in this company, tens of thousands of people, they're not all evil. It's not as though everybody that works here is evil and trying to destroy little girls and their lives. And, they had Hot Wheels and other toys too. And so that was interesting working with them and creating a new campaign called We Believe in Girls, and working on the car side and really trying to understand and empower the joy side of life and children and what it means to play and what it is to embrace that. Now, I'm not claiming success on all these fronts. And you may still, of course, hold whatever opinion you hold of Barbie. And I think the fact that I think she's still perched up as though in high heels, right? It is still somewhat of an issue. But I'm just using this as a few examples of how the practice can start informing your life, or how it informed my life anyway, at some very practical and then at a little bit deeper level. How am I going to do this? What effect am I going to try to have? How far am I going to push this? Now, in fairness, Jeff may have a point. Because on the level I'm talking about, Zen did not win. I guess you could look at it from another side and say that Zen and its practice did inform my life in a big enough way that, I ended up in robes and training further and further. And the teaching of Zen and the sharing of Zen took on greater importance in my life. To the point when we had a regime change at the highest levels of the agency, I suddenly found myself, just after 15 years with the company and 20 years or so in advertising, I just kind of found myself at a point where I no longer wanted to play along. And those people, the new regime, fired me because I did not want to play along in that particular way. And they have, of course, since been fired themselves for various reasons. But that's a little bit beside the point. I remember talking to Shelley Lazarus, who was a longtime CEO of Ogilvy at the time, and she said, look, we had our run. We've done amazing things. It's time for the next crew to see if they can do it their way. Because the fact is, Shelley left at that time, and my mentor, Steve Hayden, left at that time. So I was in good company, being shown the door. And I made sure that door took care of our family as we went out. But anyway, so I guess in that sense, did Zen win? There were a lot of questions along the way where people would say, well, you're a Buddhist, how can you sell things? You're a Buddhist, how can you drive that car? You're a Buddhist, how can you want to have anything? Where's your vow of poverty? And I just want to share with all of you that, number one, there's no vow of poverty that you all need to take. This is not a club or a cult that you get into and cannot get out of. The door is open at all times. And it's not incumbent upon everyone to become a priest or a teacher. Meet this practice where it meets you. See how it serves you. Let it inform your life if that feels right, and see what happens. And test it. And see what happens. In my experience, it is a wonderful process of awakening to what is so. And awakening to the universality of she or he who sees through these eyes and hears through these ears and touches through these fingers and smells through this nose. That great connection that all of us have that goes beyond who we think we are. And it can create beautiful nursing careers and acting careers and set building careers and beautiful lives in retirement and more powerful teachers in public schools. I think I'm covering just about everyone, and there's a great opportunity there for the practice. Now, Gabriel, there is one more. Are you still there? I can't. I see your name.
Yes, I am here.
So, Gabriel, I'm going to turn it over to everyone else, in a moment. But there is one other level that I found really useful. And forgive me, everyone, if this sounds like church, but it's pretty straightforward, and it's called the precepts. Okay? And you may have run into these in different contexts, in different family or faith-based contexts. But, there's 16 precepts. There's the 3 treasures. First, being one with the Buddha, being one with the awakened one. That means you as the awakened one, all of us as the awakened one. Being one with the Dharma, which is recognizing your connection to the teachings and the reality of everything, all 10,000 things in the 10 directions. And being one with the Sangha, or the community that we see on this screen and that goes beyond this screen. Now, remember, there's a meaning of Sangha that just means forest. And if you think about a forest of trees, each one of us is a tree. We're each able to withstand a much greater windstorm, Jacob, as a forest than we are as individual trees. Because we stand together and we shelter each other and we're there and our leaves intermingle and we share synaptic pulses through the root systems and the soil, if you want to look at it that way. The forest of the Sangha, being one with each other, the Sangha. And then there's the 3 pure precepts: cease from doing evil, do good, and do good for others. Now, again, forgive me if it sounds like church, but if you simply just go, okay, I'm going to take that on. And you go into your day and your work and your family and your life, whatever it is, and just be awake and aware of not creating new evil out there. Is what I'm doing on the plus or minus side of evil? Am I doing good, and am I doing good for others? You could take just those 3 things and take them into whatever your existence is and whatever your life is. And I guarantee just being awake and aware to those 3 things, even though they sound so basic, create a context for your life that will change your life. Because if you take them on as a non-negotiable, this is who I am. And yes, I will fail, but then I'll come back to 1. It does change the way you do things. And it changes the content that we create within that context. And then there are the 10 grave precepts. Now, this maybe mom or dad taught you these, or maybe church taught you these, or maybe you heard them for the first time here. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not engage in sexual misconduct or greed. Do not tell a lie. Do not be ignorant or intoxicated. Do not talk about others' errors and faults. How about do not elevate yourself to put down others? Do not be stingy. Do not be angry. Another version of that is, I vow not to indulge in anger and hatred. That sense of do not indulge in it. Anger arises, but do not indulge in it. And do not speak ill of the 3 treasures, which is the awakened us, the teachings, and the forest. So another way to actually take this on, and you can take it on as a religious experience or just as a secular thing, is take any one of them. I vow not to elevate myself and put down others. There's a favorite one of mine to work on. I vow not to elevate myself and put others down. How often do we do that, either overtly or covertly? Now remember, these things are born of body, mouth, and thought. So it can be physical action, it can be things that you say, but you can also do this in your head. And it has huge consequences. Stealing is not just like, okay, there's a car with keys in it, I'm going to drive it away. Very few of us are going to do that. But how about stealing someone else's self-expression or someone else's well-being? You know, how often do we take away something that somebody tries to give to us, and we essentially kill it or steal it, either one of those, through rejection or ignoring or inattention. So you can take any one of these and take them into your day. And that is making the practice alive and real in your life. And you actually, for the most part, unless you are a thief or a murderer, don't need to change what you're doing. You know, don't need to change the profession. I mean, if you're an assassin, you might need to change the profession. You know, if you're a pimp, I might suggest that you need to change the profession. You know, and this is like if you're molesting people or abusing people, then there's some serious change in order. But I think for most of the people in this on the screen and in this Sangha, there's an opportunity to transform the content of your lives simply by taking any one of these and going, okay, I'm going to practice this just for one day. And there's a ceremony done up at a practice plus a ceremony done up at Yokoji roughly once a month, and I think we may take this on as well because it's beautiful. Is we for one day each of us choose one of these and say, for one day I will focus on this, and really see what that feels like. See what that feels like. So that I think is a fairly practical and pragmatic way to, I hope, Gabriel, answer that question. You know, rather than just going, oh, be one, you know, make Zen the context. These are very practical things, and they show up as the precepts. Now, there's different ways to look at the precepts. One, just rules to follow. Following rules is a little tricky because most of us don't like being told what to do, so we start rebelling. You know, the next level is upaya, or skillful means. The Mahayana approach of being responsible for these in a broader sense, so that they don't become just simple rules, but you look at them more intelligently. How, when, where, and who do I apply these things? And then the Buddhayana, or the third level of working with the precepts or making them real in your life, is that you just are them, and they are everything that you are. But you can start fairly simple. So, did Zen win in my personal experience? You know, yes and no, depending on how you look at it. Yes and no. You know, I would say ultimately I never saw it as a win or a lose. It was, how do I make this part of what I'm doing? And it really did, through those years, because I started Zen practice right when we came to LA, right when I took on the LA office, and then we ended up running the West Coast and then the Western region, and then, you know, Chief Innovation Office. You know, the career did not suffer for this practice, and I was doing 4 sessions a year and a few Zazenkais a year, and sitting every Tuesday and Thursday, you know, when I could, if I wasn't in Asia or something. You know, it's not like an either or choice where to be Zen you have to kill everything else off. In fact, I would say that would be a crime. Let it inform what you're doing. Um, and how do you do it? Another just final link between these precepts and doing it in your life and the world of advertising I exist in, and the story usually makes Lori cry, so we'll see, is I had an assistant at the time named Corey, who we started working together like in my second week in LA, and we spent about 10 years together. And she came to my Jikai ceremony when I took on the Buddhist precepts, when I said, okay, this is how I'm going to live my life. And I remember, and some of you have heard this story, I know, but I was at work one day and I was being a particular kind of asshole, I think, just a jerk at work. And Corey was there, and she simply looked at me and she said, "Shiro." And, it stopped me dead in my tracks. She used my Dharma name, which is the name you get when you take on these precepts. You get a Buddhist name. And by activating or invoking that name, she knew exactly how to make the practice real in my life. She called me out on it. A beautiful moment of somebody else holding me to my word. And that's the final point. If nothing else, this practice asks us to be our word, to be who we say we're going to be, to act how we say we're going to act, and to make corrections with integrity when we fall out of line. Because we will make mistakes. The question is, how do you recover? How do you come back? What do you do then? So I hope that helps a little bit and makes this clear. It was an interesting couplet of questions. Do you have to give everything else up to be Zen? No. Well, how do you do it? Well, here's a few pointers. I'd like to open it up now to the group, because I think there's a lot of wisdom in the group. I'm curious about those of you that have been practicing a long time or even just a few weeks. How do you see this manifest? Are there any differences? What do you do? How does it inform your work and your life? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? And of course, if there are any questions, we can address those too. So I'd like to open it up to see what other people have to contribute. So over to all of you. Thank you. You can raise your hand or unmute yourself. Amber? Did I see Amber? Yeah, Amber, you want to unmute yourself? Lori, yeah.
I didn't raise my hand, but I was thinking of it. So
Okay.
You were being intuitive. I am new to this practice, so this may be a simple awareness, but this morning as I was taking my walk, I had some questions that I wanted answered, and I found myself using my kind of story mind to try to solve the problem. And I said, no, let us truly be here now. And the sensory experience that I had of hearing my feet, hearing the birds, hearing the plane, hearing my clothing, feeling the wind on my body, hearing the wind in my ear, seeing the birds, seeing, like all of the senses came alive. And I was like, wow, can I hear my heartbeat? Can I feel the blood flowing through my body? And I thought, this is miraculous. Just being here now. Just in the little time that I've been practicing this, I was able to kind of let go of my story, let go of my worry and problem solving thing, which is what I live in most of my life, and just be in the presence of here and now and life. And it was like so much is going on all the time. if you just like wake up to it. So that was cool this morning.
That is beautiful. Thank you, Amber. I really should stop talking sooner. Clearly. And Gabriel, I see you nodding your head.
Let me also say thank you for the talk. And I thought this was a super talk. It was extremely helpful for me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. That's okay, Gabriel. I get it. And Gabriel, I'm also like really aware that like you're probably, other than Bill Butler, the youngest person on the screen, and he just raised his hand, but then did he go away? No, he's still there. Okay. I just want to say, Gabriel, stick with it because you have a huge head start here. Exactly. You have a huge head start, you know, because like I didn't see this or feel this until I was 41, you know. I had a lot of catching up to do. So, you know, play with it. Bill?
Yeah, thank you for your talk, Shiro. It's very helpful. I like the practical side of it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. I don't trust this technology. What I would like to say, not really in response to you, but in addition, is I have no idea how this practice affects me moment to moment. But every now and then, I walk into a wall and I find out quickly how this practice works for me. Or somebody smiles at me and suddenly I realize I'm more open than I used to be. And for me, trying to chart out the way I want my life to be has never really worked very well. But what Zen practice has given me is more of a, you say, context, and it works brilliantly for me when it's working. And when it isn't, it is working. And when it is working. And I love the confusion and contradictions that exist within my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you for the ad. I'm hoping that everyone adds to what I have to say because there is a lot more. Thank you very much, Bill. I think it's a really good point. And Andrea, I'm maybe not fair to call on you, but I'd love to hear from you because I know that you've had direct experience of feeling in response how the practice has changed things for you. Do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, wasn't expecting to be called on.
Sorry.
All I can do is just reflect upon, some depression issues and how sitting has given me awakening to that and has significant. I mean, I've tried a lot of things with regarding my depression, and for some reason, this was like the icing on the cake. It just really helped heal a lot of stuff. Living in my head, being neurotic, having neurotic thoughts, repetitive thoughts, not really realizing that my thoughts are not real or that it's part of me. But when I began to sit, I would see the tape, and Ken even talked about that, the ticker tape, and when I would sit for long periods, I would realize these repetitive thoughts, and I realized that was just merely the mind. And in reading some of the books via book club and talking, I've had a significant transformation where I'm not. I can honestly say I'm not a depressed human being anymore. I don't have the issues that I had. And I notice when I start to get a little weird in my head, sitting alleviates that because it just helps me see what is not, if that makes any sense to anyone. But yeah, so that's been my experience. And in times recently with anxiety due to work relations, it's just a great way to be present and bring myself to the moment. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And I really didn't intend to take you to that deeper space that you went to. So thank you. Because I know also that you said at work, people have, kind of stepped back and said, wow, this is a powerful Andrea.
Yeah, and it very, very much so. They noticed a significant transformation, and I'm still off work right now. I worked this last year in the pandemic and just got hammered by COVID and situations and related, and I just sort of need to take some time off. So I'm still not working, and I'm very grateful for the time off. So.
Well, we're grateful to have you here, and thanks for sharing, Andrea. My apologies if I put you on the spot. Okay.
I have something.
Lori.
Hey, I really loved it, hearing our guest being reminded that Sangha means trees, like a forest of trees, because, here I go again, Gabriel, and everybody with my context for plants, but I know them so well. And I want to just say, I've been in a lot of situations where I've had to remove trees because they were dying or they were dead, and the other trees that are left are so upset. And it's so apparent. I mean, they lose their leaves, they look bedraggled. They lose their leaves in a time when they wouldn't normally lose their leaves. And I know this sounds really crazy, but I think that that's one reason that it's part of our sort of cosmology here, that when people are not here today or they don't show up today, we want to say what we know about where they are, so that we all know, as this group of trees that we all are, that everybody's okay, that they're just otherwise, involved in something else today. And it's really, it's a large part of who we are as a community, this net that we have. And I really don't want it to make it sound constricted, but it's very supportive. And I really think about those trees that have suffered when they suddenly lost all of their friends that they were standing next to. So I just thank you for making that clear today about the word Sangha. It means so much. Thank you.
Spoken as a horticulturalist. By the way, I accidentally meant to take the pen off of Bill, and I think I removed him as a Zoom offender. So I don't think he can get back in. So that's what happened to Bill. I think I violated the first precept and killed him.
Mercury in retrograde.
Anyway, just Zoom. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm happy with
Yeah.
it. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Shiro. That was, okay. That was a great talk. And Lori, I love what everybody's been saying. Amber, what an amazing moment that you had. I love that. I mean, just to be able to connect on so many layers, and it keeps going deeper. I mean, I just love those moments. For me, this practice, bringing it into my life, I mean, it affects me in so many ways all the time. It affects the way my mind works. I'm able to pause and stop the discursive thoughts, put them to the side so much more often. The neurotic thoughts, all of the obsessive thoughts. I mean, I related to what everybody's been saying, but also I think it just really genuinely has helped me recognize the humanity of everybody, and that all of our attributes, all of the stuff, we have so much window dressing, but we're really all just so connected and the same. We really are so similar, and all of you know, it's so easy to connect, you know, and to understand, even if somebody's in a different mental landscape or emotional landscape, you just kind of have the compassion. It's not even the right word really, but just I can very easily, you know, understand where another human being, wherever they might be, is coming from, and be able to relate and connect and feel for them. And just, I can, you just see it right away. You're like, oh, yep, human, you know, and then I can forgive myself too, right? In moments when I'm being a complete imbecile or whatever, and I don't beat myself up over it. You know, I'm just like, this is my mind at work, or this is my, you know, this is just human nature, and then I can connect with the Sangha. I have support. I have so much love from the people in my life that, you know, the forest has really held me, and continues to hold me. And I just feel like the practice can't help but make its way into everything. And I learn from everything, even when I'm sick and tired of learning from stuff. I'm like, I don't want to learn anything else today, but you can, you know, it just, you do. So I'm very grateful for all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Tennessee. See, Andrea, that was a different version of putting her on the spot. As I moved the computer right into her face, she was like, ah.
Thank you for directly addressing my question. Yeah, I really appreciate kind of going deeper into like what Zen means, because yeah, like the abstract stuff can sometimes feel unsubstantial. And like it's hard to really kind of bring back to one sometimes that like the practice is your context for how you live your life, like the second after standing up. But I definitely think it has gotten easier to go back to one in difficult times. I also wanted to say that I love all of your plant references, Lori, so please never stop.
Thank you.
Gabriel, I know. Okay, I did not remove you. Good. I removed myself, evidently. I remember we also talked early on about discipline, and it just occurred to me there's another part of Zen practice that, for me anyway, and I don't know that this is the case for everyone, but that just the discipline and the kind of the impeccability around things, like, you know, when you show up at Santa Monica was 5 a.m. at the time, but you know, you needed to be on your cushion 5 minutes before 5, and the waiting sticks were lit, and you know, when you come into the Zendo, you bow, and you bow to your cushion and arrange things and sit down in a particular way, and then everybody gets up together, and then when you're done, you put everything back exactly so. That level of discipline and impeccability also carried over into the other things that I was doing, and I just found it all of a sudden easier just to take care of things and to pay attention to things, and not be so casual and sloppy about things. Now you can take that to extremes, you know. I mean, I think there was early moment, and people have heard me say this before, where I would bow to everything, you know, like bow to the door before I opened it. It was a little stupid, you know. But that degree of training and discipline, and just like, well, there's a form and follow the form. Because I very much was in the don't tell me what to do, nobody tells me what to do, I know what's best, you know, I don't need help from somewhere else, and I'm a rule breaker. You know, that's where I started. And I actually found that there was power in letting go of some of that, and just, you know, straighten the cushion and bow when I was supposed to bow, and then go on with my life. And that did carry over. It carried over in my relationships with my bosses, with the people I worked for. I stopped fighting everything so much. So that's just another part. Sharma.
Hi. When you were talking, it brought to mind so many things about form, and it reminded me also of when Cooper was a toddler and was wild. He was wild, and I took him to preschool, and he began to learn how to do things, how to sit at a table with others and how to interact just one thing at a time. And I really feel like when I joined the Santa Monica Zen Center, I was at a very, not a low point, but my mother had died, and I wanted to put some form around that. And I was in a spinning class with Mark Eckhart, and he was a great spinning teacher. And we started talking, and he invited me to do a ceremony at the Zen Center for my mother. And that was my beginning into it. And it was like going to preschool. The bowing, the ceremonial aspect of it. I remember hearing Yoshin say, if you can't keep your home clean, then what are you doing? If you can't keep your rooms clean. And I really feel like it's a physical manifestation of what we do with our thoughts as well. And it all becomes, it's one unit. In informing my work, I deal a lot with my own suffering and listening to others' suffering. And eventually I understood that was where I was coming from. And it informed my practice. And I truly believe I could not have continued or wanted to continue with the work without the practice. So to me, it's been kind of everything. And I'm really grateful for having been drawn to it. I also recognize inside myself, I was very drawn to trying to find form. I did a lot of ballet from a very, very young age. And I think that's been a part of me, that it's been something I've looked for since I was very, very young, a way out of the chaos. And this is just another piece of my training that has created a foundation for everything. So I thank you for continuing all of it for me and everybody.
Thank you, Sharma. Thank you for continuing it for me and everyone and all of it. Yeah, it's 11:03. I know it's we're happy to stay on, but I know it's also time to go. Karen, again, thank you for joining from Ecuador, and Karen from San Juan Capistrano. So nice to see everybody, and Sandra.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Karen.
How do I get on your email list?
You can go to our site and just click subscribe.
I did.
You did? So it may be in spam, but I'll check. I thought I saw you on there, so check spam and see if it's in there. And if you add my address to your contact folder, then maybe it'll get through spam.
Okay, thank you. And I really enjoyed your talk. Thank you.
Hi, Karen. Good to see you.
You're welcome, Karen. Lori's saying hi.
And I got the time change correct today.
Great.
Thank you.
Jacob, is that hand up or no? You look like one of the hermits raising your fist. Yeah. Anyway. long story. All right, well, let's do the 4 vows. Tenshin Roshi's talk is at 11:30 if you just haven't had enough Zen. If you want that link, you can go to zmc.org. I think it's there, or just get a hold of us through whatever means, and we'll share that link with you. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them.
Have a happy Sunday, everyone. The 3 of us trying to find our tonal range over here. I'm having to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Anyway, have a great Sunday. And by the way, the picture in the newsletter, Karen, if you do find it, of the little Chinese baby was, I was in Shanghai working on a shoot, and this family came over and they're like holding their baby and pressing this baby to me. And the translator said, they want you to hold their baby. And so part of the practice is just reaching out and taking the baby and holding it and then passing the baby back. To this day, I don't know why. I don't know why, but there I was and there they were. Hold the baby. Pass it back. Make sure you pass it back. Have a great Sunday. All right.
Happy Memorial Day, folks.
Happy Memorial Day. Love you all. Bye.